ಸಾವರಾನಿಟಿ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾರ್ವಭೌಮತ್ವ ಅಂತ, ಅಥವಾ ಸಾವರಾನಿಟಿ ಅಂದರೆ ಸಾರ್ವಭೌಮ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಟಿಂಗ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಇಂಟು ಸಾವರಿನ್ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ. ಸೊ ಸಾವರಾನಿಟಿ ಸಾರ್ವಭೌಮತ್ವ ಅಂದರೆ ಏನು? ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಮೀನಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಾವರಾನಿಟಿ? ಸೊ ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಪದವನ್ನು ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಬರೆದಿರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. It will be having a major impact on the nature of the polity of India. So what is sovereignty? If we are constituting India into sovereign nation, ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಭಾರತವನ್ನು ಸಾರ್ವಭೌಮ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಕರಿತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ what is that sovereignty? So sovereignty means supreme ಅಥವಾ ನಾವು noble ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. Supreme, or we call it as noble. What is supreme and what is noble? So we are calling India as a sovereign country. India is a supreme country. Supreme means nobody is above us as a country, as a state, as a government. We are supreme and noble. Nobody is coming and forcing us to govern. We are noble and we are nobody to hear anybody's lesson or whatever they say. We are supreme. ಈ ರೀತಿ ನಾನು ಸೆಂಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಹೇಳಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ವಾಟ್ ಕಮ್ಸ್ ಟು ಯುವರ್ ಮೈಂಡ್ ಈಸ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಟೆರಿಟೋರಿಯಲಿ ಸುಪ್ರೀಮ್. ಸೊ ಪಾಕಿಸ್ತಾನ್ ಈಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಫೈಟಿಂಗ್ ವಾರ್ ವಿತ್ ಅಸ್, ಸೊ ಸಮ್ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಅಟ್ಯಾಕಿಂಗ್ ಅಸ್, ಸೊ ವಿ ಕಾಲ್ ಅವರ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಆಸ್ ಸುಪ್ರೀಮ್. ಈಸ್ ಇಟ್ ರಿಯಲಿ ಎ ಸೈನ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಾವರಾನಿಟಿ? ನಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಯಾರು ಅಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ನಾವು ಇಂಡಿಪೆಂಡೆಂಟಾ? ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಸಾವರಾನಿಟಿ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಸುಪ್ರೀಮ್, ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ರೂಲ್ಡ್ ಬೈ ಎನಿಬಡಿ, ವಿ ಆರ್ ಇಂಡಿಪೆಂಡೆಂಟ್ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ. We can't call India as supreme country before 1947 because it was ruled by British colony. But after 1947, India came as a sovereign country because it became independent. So what is that independence? Whether independence is all about nobody is coming and ruling us. It's not actually. It is only one dimension of sovereignty. If you take sovereignty as a whole, there are two dimensions of sovereignty. One is external sovereignty and one is internal sovereignty. So ಇಷ್ಟೊತ್ತು ನಾವು ಪರ್ಸೀವ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಪಿನಿಯನ್ ಏನಿದೆ, ಸೊ ನಾವು ಯಾರು ಅಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ನಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಯಾರು ರೂಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಸೊ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಇಂಡಿಪೆಂಡೆಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಪರ್ಸೆಪ್ಷನ್ ಏನಿದೆ, ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಒನ್ ಡೈಮೆನ್ಷನ್ and that we call as external sovereignty because nobody is ruling us, so we are externally sovereign. And it is also called as territorial sovereignty. So if it is an India map, nobody is allowed to enter into India without India's permission. Nobody can't come and attack us because we know to safeguard ourselves. So this is called as territorial sovereignty because this piece of land is completely belongs to India. This is called as territorial sovereignty, but it becomes only one dimensional. There is also the other dimension of sovereignty is internal sovereignty, because we are constituting India into many more terms, and the first term is sovereignty. You should open your ears and listen to, because this becomes the main questions. This becomes the main question in the next slides. So listen very carefully. So we are speaking about another dimension of sovereignty, that is internal sovereignty. ಈಗ ಭಾರತವನ್ನು ನಾವು ಸಾರ್ವಭೌಮ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಕರೆದಾಗ it should also internally sovereign. I mean that if it is a country and if there is a nexalism problem in the Karavali regions, terrorism problem in the JNK regions, Jammu and Kashmir terrorism problem ಇದೆ, Karavali regions ಅಲ್ಲಿ nexalism problem ಇದೆ, and north eastern part ಅಲ್ಲಿ communalism problem ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ರಿಲಿಜಿಯಸ್ ಆಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್, ಒಂದು ಧರ್ಮ ದೇಶಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಅಂತ ಕರೆಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತಗಳಿರ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ಎ ಹಿಂಡ್ರೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಇಂಟರ್ನಲ್ ಸಾವರ್ನಿಟಿ. ಒಂದು ದೇಶ ಆಂತರಿಕವಾಗೂ ಸಾರ್ವಭೌಮತೆಯನ್ನು ಕಾಣಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, if some people come and say that our ideology is more than constitutional ideology, ನಮ್ಮ ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತ ಭಾರತದ ಸಂವಿಧಾನದ ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಶ್ರೇಷ್ಠವಾದ ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತ, ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಧರ್ಮ ಭಾರತದ ಒಂದು ದೇಶಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಒಂದು ಬಹುದೊಡ್ಡ ಅದು ಶ್ರೇಷ್ಠವಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಅಂತ ಕರೆದ್ರೆ, ವೇರ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಟರ್ನಲ್ ಸಾವರಾನಿಟಿ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಮೇ ಬಿ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ನಾನ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟಸ್ NGOಗಳಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ರಿಲಿಜಿಯಸ್ ಆಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ಗಳಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಸ್ಟ್, ನಕ್ಸಲಿಸಮ್, ಟೆರರಿಸಮ್, ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ಇಟ್ ಮೇ ಬಿ, ಇಫ್ ದೇ ಡಿಕ್ಲೇರ್ ದೆಮ್ಸೆಲ್ವ್ಸ್ ಆಸ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಮೋರ್ than a nation, then it's a question of internal sovereignty. A country has to be country has to be sovereign both the ways. It should be sovereign as well as in the internal side as well as the external side. Then we can call a country as complete sovereign country. So of course we have two terms here. One term is called as de jure, and what here I can show you in this slide. Here there are two terms, de jure and de facto. De jure means theoretically. Theoretically, we have written that we are a sovereign country in the Indian Constitution. But practical, are we really sovereign? Even from the external side and even from the internal side. So this is the question. Of course, we are a sovereign country, no doubt about that. We are an independent country. But it's a matter of debate when it comes to the question mark of sovereignty. Because the issues which are facing in the society, the happenings which are going around the world, if you see that, do we feel that is this term sovereignty absolute? Is the countries really have the freedom of having that sovereignty? So this is the question. So we should have one mains question regarding this topic. So prati concept ನಾನು explain ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ we'll be having questions both from the prelim perspective and mains perspective. So even mains questions ಇದೆ. I'll explain this question and I will tell how to attend this question, and I will also give this some points to answer this question, and it's your responsibility as an listener to attend these questions without fail. So we shall start with the question. So this is like an activity where you have to understand the question, and for framing an answer I'll give some points. So listening those stories, you are going to frame an answer. Okay, fine. First question. In the rise of globalization, the lines of sovereignty are getting blurred. Discuss. ಜಾಗತಿಕ ಮಟ್ಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಸಾರ್ವಭೌಮತೆ ಅಂತ ನಾವೇನು ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ಇದು ಒಂದು ಅಬ್ಸಲ್ಯೂಟ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಪರ್ಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ ಅಂತ, ಅಥವಾ ಇದು ಒಂದು ಕಣ್ಮರೆ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ? ಈ ಒಂದು ಒಂದು ಜಾಗತಿಕ ಮಟ್ಟ ಡೆವಲಪ್ ಆಗ್ತಿರೋ ರೀತಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಈ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ಪಾಲಿಟಿಕ್ಸ್ನ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಹೋದರೆ, ಈಸ್ ದ ಟರ್ಮ್ ಸಾರ್ವಭೌಮತೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಟರ್ಮು ಕಣ್ಮರೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಿದೆಯಾ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಕ್ವಶನ್. See, if you see the prelim question, prelims questions majority of the questions will be factual questions, but mains questions it will be always based on issue questions. So surrounding ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗ್ತಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ಇಶ್ಯೂಗಳನ್ನ ತಗೊಂಡು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಒಪಿನಿಯನ್ ಅಥವಾ ಪರ್ಸೆಪ್ಷನ್ನ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಂಥ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನವನ್ನು ಈ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನೇಷನ್, ಮೇನ್ಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನೇಷನಲ್ಲಿ ಅಳೆಯಲಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಯು ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಅವೇರ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಮೇನ್ಸ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ಏನೇನು ಇಶ್ಯೂಗಳು ಪೇಪರಲ್ಲಿ ದಿನ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ, ಈ ಸಂಪಾದಕೀಯ ಪೇಜ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಎಡಿಟೋರಿಯಲ್ ಪೇಜಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವೇನು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ, ಈ ಒಂದು ಇಶ್ಯೂಗಳನ್ನ ನಾವು ಓದಿ ಡೈಜೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಫಾರ್ ದ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಪರ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟಿವಿಂದ ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಆ ಒಂದು ಆನ್ಸರ್ ರೈಟಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಅಭ್ಯಾಸ ಯಾರು ಮಾಡಲ್ವೋ, it's very tough for them to clear the mains examination. You can clear prelims examination by reading more books, but it requires many efforts to clear the main examination. So I think you have understood the question. In the globalization, the lines of sovereignty are getting blurred. Discuss. Okay, we shall take this question very seriously. So ನಾನು ಅವಾಗ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ, ಸಾವರನಿಟಿ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಒನ್ ಡೈಮೆನ್ಷನ್, ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಟೂ ಡೈಮೆನ್ಷನಲ್. ಸೊ ಇಫ್ ಎ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಸಾವರಿನ್ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ, ಇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಸಾವರಿನ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಬೋತ್ ದ ಸೈಡ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ಹೌ ಎ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಿ ಡೆಫಿಸಿಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಾವರಾನಿಟಿ? ಒಂದು ಕಂಟ್ರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಾರ್ವಭೌಮತ್ವದ ಕೊರತೆ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಉಂಟಾಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಆ ರೀತಿ ಉಂಟಾಗೋದ್ರಿಂದ, ತೊಂದರೆ ಉಂಟಾಗೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಹೇಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಾರ್ವಭೌಮತ್ವ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಕಣ್ಮರೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ. ಸೊ ಓಕೆ, ಇಫ್ ಯು ಟೇಕ್ ದ ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ ರೈಟ್ಸ್ ಬೈ ಯುನೈಟೆಡ್ ನೇಷನ್, ಈಗ ವಿಶ್ವಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ಇಂಟರ್ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ನಾವೇನು ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ವೆದರ್ ಇಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಅಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ಆನ್ ಎನಿ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ ಇಫ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ಪಾರ್ಸ್ ಟು. ವಿಶ್ವಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ಒಂದು ಕಂಟ್ರಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಅಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು ಕಂಟ್ರಿಯ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಮ್ಯಾಟರ್ಸ್ ಅದರ ಆಂತರಿಕ ವಿಚಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಪಾಲ್ಗೊಳ್ಬೋದಾ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಮಾರ್ಕ್ ಬಂತಂತಂದರೆ, it is a question mark of sovereignty, because sovereignty means no international organization and no other countries above one country. ಯಾವುದೇ ದೇಶ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವುದೇ ಇಂಟರ್ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಒಂದು ಅದರ ದೇಶದ ಸಾರ್ವಭೌಮತೆಗಿಂತ ಯಾವುದು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಇದು ಒಂದು ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಸಾವರನಿಟಿ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಬಟ್ ಈ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಲ್ ರೈಟ್ಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ ರೈಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ನಾವೇನು ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ವಿಶ್ವಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯ ಮಾನವ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳಂತ ಏನು ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ಆ ಮಾನವ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳು ಜಾಗತಿಕ ಮಟ್ಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಉಲ್ಲಂಘನೆ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಯುನೈಟೆಡ್ ನೇಷನ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಗಾಟ್ ಎ ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಅಸ್ ರೈಟ್ ಟು ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಷನ್. If something problem is happening in a particular country, the United Nations will advise them to stop all those activities, all the activities which is going against the human rights. ಮಾನವ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಯಾವುದೇ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿಗಳು ಒಂದು ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ವಿಶ್ವಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ಅಡ್ವೈಸ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ದಿಸ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟೀಸ್, because human rights are to be provided with mandatories. But if that particular country is incapable of providing that human rights, ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಕಂಟ್ರಿ ತನ್ನ if it is incapable of managing its domestic internal matters. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, ನೀವು ಇನ್ನೂ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂದರೆ, ಇಫ್ ಸಿರಿಯಾ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಕಂಟ್ರಿ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ, ದೇರ್ ವಾಸ್ ಎ ಐಸಿಸ್ ಅಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ಆನ್ ದ ಸಿರಿಯಾ. ಐಸಿಸ್ ಉಗ್ರಗಾಮಿಗಳು ಪದೇ ದೇವರ್ ಸೇವಿಯರ್ ಅಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ಆನ್ ಐಸಿಸ್. ಸೊ ಸಿರಿಯಾ ವಾಸ್ ಇನ್ಕೇಪಬಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಓನ್ ಡೊಮೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಮ್ಯಾಟರ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ UN can do is it went for military intervention. So it went for military intervention in the leadership of Russia. It went for military intervention. So ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಂಟ್ರಿಯ ಒಂದು ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ ರೈಟ್ಸ್ ವೈಲೇಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, if it's a country, if human rights are violated, UN can take an action in the domestic matter of the country. For example, as I said in Syria, or if the country is involving in manufacturing of bombs, which is a very threat to the peace of the world. For example, I'll give example of North Korea. North Korea tagondre, that country will not listen to anybody. It will follow its own as whims and fancies. So what the United Nations will do, it will impose economic sanctions, and it may be in form of trade sanctions or financial cutdowns will be there. ಈ ದೇಶಕ್ಕೆ ಬರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ವ್ಯಾಪಾರದ ವಹಿವಾಟುಗಳನ್ನು ಕಡಿತಗೊಳಿಸ್ತಾರೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಈ ದೇಶಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ಒಂದು ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿನ ಡೆವಲಪ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾರಿಂದ ಹೊರಗಡೆಯಿಂದ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ, ಈ ಒಂದು ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಕಡಿತಗೊಳಿಸ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ಕೆಲಸವನ್ನು ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ ಸ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡರ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. I mean, here UN is challenging one country's sovereignty. For this state is incapable, I gave the example of Syria. For economic sanctions, I gave the example of North Korea. And if the state is completely failure of its administration, it's completely incapable of managing its domestic affairs, then the final call will be taken as military intervention. The UN will military intervene to the domestic affairs of a particular country with a policy called as right to protection. So here the international organization, it can impose sanctions, it can question the domestic affairs of a particular country, or it can even militarily attack because of its policy in the member states. It can only do in the member states actually. So though here the sovereignty is getting blurred, because the domestic affairs of the country, a supremacy of the country, or the noble status of the country is questioned by an international organization. So where the sovereignty of the country becomes big question mark here. I think you can observe where the sovereignty of a particular country is getting blurred. For example, we will take some cases of India itself. We spoke about some other countries. We'll take the cases of India itself. ಈ ಭಾರತದ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ 1990ರಲ್ಲಿ we had a severe financial crisis. We had a less forex in our country to trade with other countries. There was a huge amount of financial crisis that was happening in 90s. So what India did, India went to the IMF to ask money, to ask loan. But what IMF said, International Monetary Fund said, no, we are not able to give the money because you have a socialistic lenience. Socialist means the majority of the policy of India will be towards its own citizens. They obstruct the international goods coming from outside, or obstruct the private sector coming from outside to make business in a particular country, because they think that the welfare of the citizen is the most important criteria for them. So India was reluctant to call other countries to its countries, because Indian market was not that competent enough to compete with the foreign markets. This was the concern of India. ಭಾರತದ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ಏನಿದೆ, ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಕಾಂಪಿಟೆಂಟ್ ಎನಫ್. ಈ ಆಚೆ ಬರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಬೇರೆ ಕಂಟ್ರಿಯಿಂದ ಬರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಪ್ರೈವೇಟ್ ಪ್ಲೇಯರ್ಸ್ ಜೊತೆ ಕಾಂಪೀಟ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಅಷ್ಟು ಸಬಲವಾಗಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. So until 19, because we got independence in 1947. 1947, India got independence in a very tough situation. There was poverty everywhere, there was starvation everywhere, there was no scarcity of food and water. India was struggling. So India decided to go lean towards socialistic principle, because until we become competent enough to compete with the private markets and with the whole world, we will protect ourselves first, because we do not allow outsiders to come again and exploit us in our country. So what happened? India was in a severe financial crisis, because the major amount in the treasury of India we just gave for poverty reduction, and we gave in the form of subsidies and all, and India was in a trouble. India couldn't trade with other countries because of less forex. So India went to the IMF. So what IMF said, the economic policies what you have is not good. Just throw it away and bring some economic good reforms that we can give you money so that you will lend it later. And what you lend will be at least guaranteed for us. So at this time of situation, there was economic reforms in the country that is called as LPG reforms. LPG means liberalization, privatization and globalization, which made the economy to open, where the private players were allowed to come into the country and do a business here. So LPG reforms was brought. So here you can observe that some international organization is interfering in one's domestic matters of a particular country. In case of India, so here they interfered in our domestic matter and they made us to change our economic policies. So here again the question of sovereignty becomes question mark. And if you go with the nuclear test, which was done by Indian scientists, we did a nuclear test in Pokhran in Rajasthan, and finally we became nuclear power country in the world. So when this nuclear test was done in India, the country was questioned. The entire world community questioned the testing of nuclear power, but we just want to prove that we are nuclear power, because nobody can come and attack us easily. We are the nuclear power. India want to prove it, and India proved it. But what happened? There was economic sanctions imposed on India by the US, where some other countries questioning the nuclear test of our country. This becomes the question mark of the sovereignty. I think you're understanding like what is the pros and cons of the sovereignty. So this is part. And recently the Commonwealth in the Commonwealth Britain, the issue between Britain and Maldives. This is a homework for you. You have to read this issue, and if you have any doubts, you can post it in the post it below, where you will I will clarify in the next lecture. And this is the homework for you to study how the sovereignty of Maldives was questioned by the Britain, because of the reason Maldives was a group of Commonwealth nation. So this is a issue which is for your homework today. I think you understood the debate between the sovereignty, how the sovereignty is getting blurred, and you can finally say that in the international world, in the era of globalization, where the country's actions can be questioned in the international politics. So from here we can understand that sovereignty, the lines of sovereignty is getting blurred in the globalization era. So I have to write these points. So with this, moving on, we are moving on to the next word, that is socialism.